What's up, operators listeners? We have a special emergency broadcast coming in live with Mehtab. Mehtab, take it away.
Hey guys, it's Mehtab from Carta Ventures. We invest minority equity in D2C brands, 3PLs, sometimes agencies, manufacturers, etc. And today I'm on the Operators Podcast to help you juice your profitability. Let's do it.
We are just coming at you with like 3 to 5 solid bullet point tips on how to be more profitable right after listening to this podcast. We dive into the details, we share personal stories. And if you like what Mehtab has to say, we don't think he gets enough love. So follow him on Twitter, follow him on LinkedIn, email him directly. His email is
m@cartaventures.com and let me buy equity in your company.
Yeah, I actually wasn't going to say it, but you just doxed yourself on the most listened to podcast on earth. So guys, special shout out to Fulfill, Northbeam, Postscript. I love all of those softwares. I use them. They make this podcast possible. So if you interact with someone from Fulfill, be nice. If you interact with somebody from Northbeam, you don't have to be that nice, but you should at least be cordial. If you talk to somebody from Postscript, Alex grew up being a professional bowler. The guy can bowl like a 280. So ask him about that next time you see him. So they do SMS and bowling courses. So if you need to learn more, any of those softwares are here to help you. We love them. We respect them. Thank you for being here.
So one of the founders of Fulfill actually reached out via Twitter DM saying he said he could potentially help us with an issue. We weren't actually looking to even move ERPs. And it turned out they had something called channel scripts, which is really huge for our business. It let us transform our orders after they were placed and basically modify them so they have the correct BOM and a few other things for production after. And that made a huge difference in our business. That was an immediate 5 figures to our bottom line. And it let us kind of free up about 6 people we had that were working on fixing issues downstream from that. So that was a big win. And then we love their pick and pack module, which is really, really good too. It's pretty rare for an ERP to have a good pick and pack module. Most of the time we end up having to kind of rip that out and replace it with something else. So it was nice having everything all in one.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Operators Podcast. Mehtab requested to show up. We're going to give him $500 for doing the Fulfill ad read. Thank you for doing that. Fulfill is our premium sponsor. I will send you the Venmo. It was your idea. We're going to go over the top 5 ways that brands can get more profit without increasing revenue, without cutting headcount. Just what are like hidden levers inside your business to unlock true profitability. So you have 3 of them, and we're going to have the other guys come up with 2 of them while we're talking about these. So
no pressure.
We have a spreadsheet. Maybe we'll share it with everybody. It's broken into different categories. The first one is supply chain. And I think there's a lot to be done here. I'm going to have you take the first stab, and then I'll take the second stab of like, what is the one hack in supply chain that can get you more profitability?
Yeah, let's just riff through it. So there's a bunch, but I think the easiest thing to do is to jump on a plane. I'm always surprised by how many companies have not visited their suppliers. And I think we're all kind of colored by growing up on the internet and not being used to meeting people in person. And, we're in the US or Canada as well, where it's not necessarily required, but in other countries, it's much more common to meet someone in person and do business face to face. So I think that's a really big one, meeting your suppliers in person. And that way you're not the guy that just berates them once in a while on WeChat, right? You're an actual person instead of just someone kind of screaming at them occasionally via WeChat messages. So
yeah, one really simple example of how that plays out. Like there's all the obvious ways of like, maybe you can get better cost of goods sold, or maybe there's some things about how they're shipping things that are inefficient and you can cut costs just by working with them. But there's other ways that are like hidden. For example, when we were growing, we got these mass retail deals that would require us to scale up a ton. And either we'd have to go get like predatory lending basically from somebody. And the factory's like, we'll just float it, we'll just float it and you can pay us when you can pay us, because we'd probably been in China 20 times at that point. And so we saved who knows how much interest on borrowing money just because they were willing to cover more of the float.
I have a personal story about this. So we went to China. We had 2 suppliers. We thought one was a rinky-dink operation that couldn't get anything done. And we thought one was this big blue chip, like amazing supplier. Turns out the big major supplier we thought we had was a total fraudster. He like rented a building to show us around. Our Chinese staff's like, That sign says welcome him. This is not his building. He rented this. These are not his employees. He paid people to wear uniforms that had his name on it. Like it was a total scam operation. And we're like, oh fuck. Like there was a point where we thought we were going to be killed, but my Chinese staff's like, it's China. Nobody kills people here. Like you're totally fine. Then we go to the rinky dink supplier. Turns out they make drones for the Australian army. They have like a full automated factory. They're crushing it. Like I'm like, oh, okay. We had that totally wrong. We could only figure that out by showing up and walking around. So get your ass to China. So I agree, Mehtab. You had a point?
Yeah, I think I was just going to jump into, because Mike brought it up, is the financing side. Anytime someone's exporting out of their country, they typically have access to an export bank, and that means really, really, really cheap credit. So they can often hold that inventory on their books for far less than you could, as far as expenses, et cetera, tied to interest. So they're
So
often
you
cool
should use that to put the screws to your suppliers, basically, and tell them, like, you guys can do this. You know, we can have better.
Yeah, exactly.
Terms.
Well, I think it's, and if they can't give it to you, you might be dealing with a trading partner, not a factory, right? Factories have like additional access to, machine loans, factory loans, export loans, like Meetab's talking about. The Chinese government wants to be exporting things to the whole world. And if somebody's like, we can't get you that, we don't know what you're talking about, you could be dealing with a middleman or a trading partner. The easiest way to figure that out is to get your ass to China. Jason, are you taking advantage of some of this?
Yeah. Not really. No, I don't think we have.
Oh, okay. Well, how would you make your supply chain more profitable?
Sorry, guys. Got distracted for a second.
Jason was like the kid who gets called on in class and has totally been daydreaming.
No, dude, Sean, my chef for the all-in event, like we're supposed to have a chef there Sunday at the when people come to pick up their badges, because there's like a bunch of people there, and it's going to be like 1,000,000 degrees. And
yeah,
our chef's like, we can't do it. So I'm like, people are texting me like, someone's like, hey, we got to get a different chef for this thing.
Dude, I was thinking about that. I'm worried it's going to be so fucking hot.
It's going to be so hot. Yeah. So I'm sorry. I was just dealing with that. Ask me the question again, please.
Jason, what would you do to lower supply chain costs? You ship the biggest thing here, so you have the most fucking freight costs, labor costs, import costs. So what do you do to make yourself more profitable?
Well, one of the things that we recently did, actually, which is like sort of not, I don't know if this is exactly supply chain, but it's to like the end level to the customer. We went from doing our own fulfillment to using a bunch of 3PLs, and we're just getting so big that we just found like a new 3PL that they're just so big, and they just have such incredible volume that like our fulfillment costs are going to go down millions. Like maybe I'm gonna say 6 to 7 million next year, just based on scale. So that's a big win for us in terms of just like overall profitability in our supply chain. You know, we're really a special beast. We have one factory that we're 90% of their production, and I will just say we have never had a price increase from that factory. So you could argue that with our ramping in production, that maybe our prices should be going down, but with inflation, like there's other inflationary aspects of our business that we've had to deal with, but in terms of our actual COGS, we've been pretty good about controlling that.
Yeah, I want to just double to click on, because one of the things I was going to say is get a better 3PL. Jason was doing fulfillment in a warehouse in Los Angeles. And do you know that the most expensive place to have a warehouse is probably Los Angeles, California? Like the only thing that could beat it is what, Manhattan? It's like,
guys, we ran the most efficient operation. But what happens with scale is that it's not linear, right? Because you can have a 40,000 square foot warehouse and X number of people, and your cost of fulfillment just literally just keeps going down until you grow out of the warehouse, right? And then you grow out of the warehouse and you're screwed, because when you stand up option B, all of a sudden, that's what we saw. Like in October 22, we started moving some of our stuff to 3PLs, and now at the moment we're probably like 80% at 2 different 3PLs. And I believe the decision has been made to move all of it to one monster 3PL. And it's going to be, I think, in year one, something in the order of like 7 million in savings.
The problem is they're paying Gordon Ramsay to operate a forklift, and that's just not efficient. So if you have a world famous chef doing things like pick and pack, like that's an easy way to save some money.
True.
Yeah. Is he going to be cooking for us at the All In Summit or TBD?
No, he's in London. We just actually shot a TV commercial with him the day before yesterday in London.
Okay. Well, let's kick it back to our special guest, Mehtab. What should we be looking at? You hit us on some good supply chain stuff. Anything else you would do immediately to save millions of dollars?
Yeah, for sure. I think the other big thing is working with your suppliers in person to re-engineer the product. I think you can find a lot of things that are essentially just straight up waste. A good example is we had one supplier that was arranging products. It was faced up before it shipped. I don't know why. By the time it got to us, it was obviously all mixed up. So we had no idea they were doing this. And then when you ship it again to the customer, it's going to mix up even more. But there's no real benefit for us or the customer, right? So that's just complete waste. They're spending all this time having people arrange them face up. And there's no way you would know that unless you showed up in person and you worked with them and walked through the whole process start to finish. So when you go, you want to make sure that the actual person managing production is there and they can walk you through the process start to finish so you can see it. You can maybe identify some waste. Maybe they're throwing in certain features that your customers don't care about. Again, that's just pure cost. And if you cut that out, it's savings for both of you, which you can pass on to your customer. Or Sean's favorite thing, spend more on Facebook.
Here's a derivative of that. And I don't know, under Amazon, we're 1P with Amazon, but we actually engineered products around price thresholds with Amazon shipping. It was like if you were above 0.85 pounds, because they would basically say, okay, 1 pound, the cutoff is 0.85 because we put it in, whatever, a larger Amazon box. So if you're below 0.85, it was whatever, 3 something. And if you're above 0.85, then it goes up to 420 or something. And so we had a bunch of products that were like 0.83, 0.86, 0.88. And we literally started saying like, okay, well, it'd be stupid, right? It'd be stupid to not design products to fall under that threshold. And if you're still in the marketplace, I know this is a thing for a lot of people, Amazon will mismeasure your stuff and they will sometimes get crazy measurements in there. So if you're not auditing that, you're probably overpaying. Amazon is going to overcharge you on things. You got to go and fight them and you got to prove to them that things are certain measurements. But we had a lot of money that floated around in that because we had such a big Amazon business.
When you were talking about suppliers and squeezing suppliers, this is a really simple one. Understand what's going on with them and understand their business, because they try to like hide the ball on you too. Especially when you deal with suppliers in certain countries, you like don't trust anything. And here's a fun one. We decided we were going to revamp all of HexCloud's packaging, and we went to a big packaging designing company, huge one. And our packaging super cool now, right? And we did the designs with them, and then we go to our factory and we're like, "Hey, we're gonna do this new packaging, and we're buying the packaging from this other packaging." They designed it and they have the production, right? They make the boxes over in China and everywhere else, and all of a sudden our factory's like, "Wait a minute, we make the boxes." And we're like, wait, we didn't even know that they had their own box making operation. And like, there's real money there, right? There's like real money. So there's just like stuff that you don't know. And so what we did was we were like, well, good. Well, you can eat the cost of all this design that we just did in like, 6 figures. And like they were happy to do it because they figured out how much money they were making off of us on the boxes. So, it's really good. You just got to figure out what's going on over there, because they're playing all kinds of games with you. Like, so yeah. You have to be like a detective with these people.
Jason, I agree completely. I have another personal story about this. If your suppliers ever tell you that they can't support inventory holding, or like, oh, we can't float your inventory, try to change the design of something. They'll be like, we have 8,000 parts. We have 100,000 parts we made. I'm like, well, motherfucker, you're floating that inventory. How come you can float all these parts, but you can't float a packaged thing shipped out the door? So we've tried to change logos and they're like, we have 50,000 of that. We cannot change it. I'm like, okay, you bastard. So exactly that, Jason. Mehtab, you got another one.
Oh, I have so many here. Okay. The other thing I think that's really important to be kind of knowledgeable about is the whole big man culture thing throughout Asia. So people will not want to really lose to you in a negotiation. It's kind of prevalent. It happens in the US sometimes. It's really prevalent there. So when you are negotiating, especially in front of people that are kind of lower ranked than that person, maybe it's not the head of the factory or whatever, you want to make sure you're not making them look like they lost a negotiation, as weird as that sounds. So if you're in a WeChat group with like 6 people on their side, ideally you can meet them in person or talk to them on the phone when you're negotiating. And when you do that, like you were saying, re-engineering product is great. We're saying, hey, let's work together on a new product, and the product can just happen to be cheaper. But if you come out and say, hey, I just want a price decrease, they do not want to say yes, especially in front of their subordinates.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Postscript is the only SMS solution you should be using as a brand store owner because their sole focus is on SMS. They're the biggest innovators in the space, and their latest launch of Postscript AI is proof of this. I got to see the demo a couple months back and immediately wanted in on the beta. And over the course of a 4-week period, Postscript generated, for Ridge, over $124,000 in AI-driven revenue. We used a holdout, so I can confidently say 12,000 of that is purely incremental. A 9% lift in browse abandonment, 14% on checkout, and our best performing abandoned cart flow had a 29% lift on click-through rate and a 21% lift on earnings per message. Should I say that again, but maybe a little slower? 12,000 in incremental revenue, a 9% lift on our browse abandonment, 14% lift on our checkout abandonment, and a 21% lift on our abandoned cart automation. And the work from our team was close to zero to generate these numbers. There's 2 things about Postscript AI that I'm personally really excited about. One is Brand Center. It's the central nucleus of all of their AI message testing. We get to feed them exactly how we want to sound, what words to say, avoid, who we want our personas to be, and tune that over time to make sure our AI-generated messaging is on brand as much as possible. I think Brand Center will power messaging everywhere potentially. Right now, we've just got it in our SMS flows, but I think it could go a lot more places. The second one is now that you've got this Brand Center, you can do infinity testing. So you can imagine maybe once, twice, 3 times a quarter, we're setting up an A/B test to understand, is this message better than this one? Infinity testing does that in the background constantly, testing hundreds and thousands of variations to identify the optimal messaging given each flow. When I first heard this described, it immediately made me think that A/B testing feels very archaic. So I'm incredibly excited about both Brand Center and Infinity testing. So if you're in D2C marketing, you need to check this out. They've completely transformed how the team at Ridge is approaching SMS. Go to postscript.io/AI to learn more.
All right, Mike, do you have a tip for us?
Well, I mean, I just think this whole vector is, there's just so many different directions you can go of how you relate with your supplier and saving money. I've seen thousands of them. I mean, a simple example that we have sometimes is retailers are fine with us quoting a product where we deliver it to them in the US or where we direct import it. And there you can save money, you can make yourself more profitable, you can reduce the amount of capital you have to put in to support a retailer. Right? Yeah, exactly. Like, in fact, Costco, I think 100% almost of the hard goods that you'll see in Costco. I don't know, Jason, if you guys DI your Costco stuff, but they love doing DI. And so sometimes it's, I saved money on my COGS. Sometimes it's just, hey, I was able to deliver on this program with, instead of committing $5 million in capital for 6 months, I committed $0 in capital and I just got paid. And that's a much better deal. That, like, maybe that's not more quote unquote profit, but it leads to more profit because I'm freeing up capital in other places. I think the key to all of these things, probably the principle I would highlight, is you go and you actually understand the factories that you're partnering with, the manufacturing partners, what motivates them, what are their goals, what are they trying to achieve? And then you kind of take, okay, here's what they're trying to achieve, here's what I'm trying to achieve, here's the overlap where there's opportunities for things that they're going to be cool with, but also make me way more capital efficient, way more profitable, whatever else. And you just would be surprised how many of those there are. I think, that point that Americans, we can just be so boorish, like, I want lower COGS or I'm going across the street. And that just does not work. Like, that's not effective. So this is kind of counterintuitive, but for our company, one of the easiest ways to be more profitable is just be really likable. Just be more likable. Like, I know that sounds stupid.
That's why you're Governor Mike.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, think about it. Like when we started the company in 2016, like why do we win? There's no good reason why we win. Capital wasn't a reason. Experience wasn't a reason. Market position wasn't a reason. We're in Oklahoma. Like there's no reason why it worked. But people tend to just give concessions and favors and do things for the people that they like the most. And so sometimes just being winsome, like this is like the kind of how to win friends and influence people thing, like being charismatic, being winsome, remembering people's birthdays, making sure that people understand that you care about them as a person. It comes back to you and your bottom line in all these ways that you couldn't anticipate. And so we've seen that with China in a huge way. My chief manufacturing officer, there was a year where he spent 120 days either in the air or in China. But you can imagine the level of relationship that he built over that time.
Yeah, it never hurts to be a good person and to act, be classy, try to help people. It definitely never hurts. So we're talking about profitability hacks, right? So all right, before I forget, I'm gonna do it. Okay, here's a profitability hack: shrinkflation. There's a profitability hack. It doesn't work for everyone, but we crushed shrinkflation. We used to sell a 13-piece set. We now sell a 12-piece set. And we used to sell the 13-piece set for $6.99. And when we would put it on sale, we would sell for $5.99. So now we sell the 12-piece set for $6.99, and we sell it on sale for $5.99. But then we upsell you that 13th piece. So shrinkflation. And like it's worked incredibly well. On top of that, we redid our packaging. So we got our boxes, our sizes down. So we fit a lot more in a container. And so all that, that was a very specific example of a profitability hack that's been huge for us. Now, there was some marketing components to that because we had so much history in selling that 13-piece set, and my growth team, including Connor R, they were all losing their freaking minds for months over this, and Danny, to his credit, it was like, this is gonna work, so shut up, get it done. And we were right, it was great. So you see shrinkflation in CPG stuff, and there's a lot of CPG people who listen to this pod, and shrinkflation is a no-brainer if it fits your business.
Yeah, I'm gonna start selling half a wallet. If you want the other half of the wallet, you got to pay double.
Here's a big idea: we sell the pan, but not the handle. That's an upsell.
Modular handles.
They
so
do actually they do sell ones with detachable handles, but we think they're terrible. We don't.
There you go. And then the one last thing I want to touch on with supply chain is just sourcing enough with enough velocity. I think a lot of newer companies make this mistake where you see it a lot, like when we're looking at minority equity positions and companies doing kind of 5 million to 20 million, where they're just not sourcing enough. So they might be looking for a new supplier for a specific product, and they'll only speak to 5 vendors. That number needs to be like closer to 30 to 40, right? And you're going to wipe out so many by doing some of the things that Sean suggested to show up. And even if you don't show up yourself to visit every vendor, you can hire someone in China, even full time. It's not that expensive to go out and do these visits. Just make sure they're real, like Sean is saying. And the more vendors you have, the more you can kind of pit them against each other, the better. And then product will end up with it at a much, much, much better price. So don't just stop at like 5 vendors, then kind of pick the best from a pile of mediocre options.
For $1,500 a month, you can have somebody full-time in China whose job it is just to go to factories and just be like, hey, yeah, they're bullshit. And they'll just tell you.
And just channel check. Like they can quote out everything. This is what, the Walmarts, the Sam's Clubs, the Costco's do. They have people that all they're doing is, every week they're getting fresh quotes from people. So if you talk to a buyer, that buyer is going to be looking at a sheet that's like, okay, what they're selling me, here's what it costs, basically. Like if they're sourcing it well, and they know all that stuff before they even talk to you.
Yep. So Mehtab, that is some fantastic advice on the supply chain. I love the next one. It's pricing, how to get more profit out of pricing.
And Jason already jumped into it a little bit. But
yeah. I think Jason opened the door here. To remind the audience, we're trying to figure out little tiny hacks to make you more profitable. You're talking to the king of profit right now, right? Me and Mehtab, the kings of profit. I have a personal example of another one we did. We sell men's wedding bands. We did multiple millions of dollars in men's wedding bands last month. It is a 90% gross margin business. It is a commodity business. It is a business nobody fucking has any right to win in. It's kind of like being Mike in 2016. We are growing 100% plus year over year because we've just nailed pricing down. We used to discount them 30%, or no, it was 25% or something. And it was like a gold ring for like $227. It's a horrible price, right? We moved it to $195. Yes, it's lower. Adoption rate on the gold rings shot up and they cost just as much as every other ring to make. So we're probably running a 2x as profitable business on a net unit basis because of a lowering of prices to get more people to opt into it. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody, but what pricing tips do you guys have? We'll start with me, Tab.
Yeah, I think part of what you said is we probably run pricing tests now across 12 or 15 brands. And I always find there's a cliff for everything. It also depends on your things like your average number of units per order, right? So if you're a brand where you have a ton of SKUs and your average number of units per order, just like different SKUs per order is 8, people are going to look at the end cart price more than they are the individual product. So a lot of D2C brands just have 4 hero products, and the average number of units per order is maybe 1. In that case, it's much simpler to test pricing because you don't have all these cross sensitivities. But like you were saying, I think it's really important to find that cliff. Like where is the cliff where demand absolutely drops off? And it's really different for everyone. We've also found that it varies by brand as far as how you make those price increases happen. So like Jason was saying, you can do things like shrinkflation. Some brands can get away with just cranking pricing, and it's cool when it works. Like we had a footwear company, and the Trump tariffs had come in. I think this is 2018, 2017. It was right before COVID. And we were like, oh man, we're screwed. Because we were selling affordable shoes that were maybe $30, $40, and our COGS were like $5-6. And they were about to go way up. They were about to go up by 30% because of tariffs. So one of the founders just cranked pricing overnight, and it totally worked. So it's nice when that works. So there's no hit to profitability, but it's rare. So you have to do things like Jason was saying, shrinkflation, and other different pricing strategies. Like you can unbundle certain features that you sell and sell them differently, which is also what he hinted at, right? Is upselling that 13th piece.
And by the way, price testing is like so easy to do. It's really, really, really easy to do. We're always price testing. We just we just do samples, we run things. We launched aprons, and we started out with a price, and we weren't sure whether it was right, and we just did some price testing. It's like with it D2C, with Shopify, with some of these vendors, it's simple to do price testing. Crazy not to be messing with that.
Yeah, if you're single channel and you're doing e-commerce, like this is just good business hygiene. Like this is one of the kind of built-in strategic advantages that you have that you don't have if you're in physical retail or if you're omni-channel and you're worried about scraping and stuff. And if you're not taking advantage of it, that's on you. And I think, Sean, your point is an important one, that the traditional like, hey, just raise prices. It's like sometimes raising prices is the worst thing you can do. Sometimes you're pricing yourself out of profit, and that the way that you learn is by you testing. There've been times when I thought, man, raising price here, it could really be bad. And we raised it and people didn't flinch. And then there've been other times where I thought we were already really sharp, but it turned out $2 lower was the kind of golden price point. So my brother used to say, we don't know what's best. That's why we test. And I've loved that mentality. Digital gives you the ability to run very quick, inexpensive experiments. And I guess like kind of to the point of the whole pod, if you're trying to figure out how do I make myself more profitable, in a way that anybody can execute on right now today without spending a bunch of money, pricing testing has to be number one. Almost, you don't even have to get on a plane. Like you just have to log into Shopify and test something for 24 hours, right?
Totally. And this is our third podcast where, we've talked about pricing in however many episodes, right? It is so important to continue to talk about it because as an entrepreneur, you listening to this right now, you haven't done the research needed to determine the best price for your product. there is so much price memory that you have that no one else on earth has. And you're like, of course it's $29. It's always been $29. That's the best price. Dude, it could sell just as well at $39. You have no fucking idea. You just have to do the hard thing and test it. And I'm talking to you, listener. You're listening to this right now and you think it doesn't apply to you. It applies to you. We had a $145 ring on sale and we had a 227, and we're bringing the 227 to 195. We were able to spend 50% more marketing. We were able to sell 100% more rings. It's been fucking crazy, right? So
the other way you can do it is forcing bundling. I think the guys that do it really, really well is True Classics. If you go to True Classics website, I think the first thing you're slapped with are a bunch of bundle tees. Like when you get there, you immediately think, I'm not buying one t-shirt anymore. I'm going to buy 10. It's like, they just slap you with like 5 packs of tees, 10 packs of tees, 20 packs of tees. It's crazy. And I remember I went to the website. I was like, all right, I have to see what the hype is. And I ended up buying like 10 t-shirts for no reason, just because that's what I was slapped with the first thing when I went to the website. And you'll see a bunch of apparel brands do this. I think there's a sock company. I can't remember their name. It starts with a B.
Bombas.
Yeah, Bombas. Yeah, they do it a lot too. So when you go on there, you'll see they just slap you with the larger bundles. And a lot of this is obviously like the shipping dynamics in e-commerce, but it's another way to effectively raise prices.
It's a CAC dynamic too, right? Because you want to be more profitable, get your AOV up.
Sure.
Just get your AOV
and it's
up.
just like the marginal contribution profit per unit sold just skyrockets on that second one, just because of the shipping dynamics. Like if you can get somebody to do one behavior, it's buy from me. If you can get them to do a second behavior, it's buy 2 things from me. Like that's the entire game. And I think for us, it's especially crazy because it can cost $12 to ship 1 tumbler and $13 to ship 2. And so our margins just absolutely explode on the second unit. And you kind of want to do just anything and everything you can to get them to add that second unit.
Yeah, and bundling is just like such an easy way to do it. Like if you can figure out how to get people into the bundle, it's perfect.
Which I think this is why, Sean, you had a tweet this week that popped off a little bit where you were talking about, hey, here's what it takes to get to 50. Here's what it takes to get to 100. And you were kind of making the point of like, you have to have kind of a hero product. And then there's a point where you have to have a hero and kind of a secondary product. And I think this is one of the reasons why, that if you only have one thing that people want to buy, especially if it's not something that they'll buy multiples of, it just starts to become difficult. Like the financial physics become not your friend, but your enemy. And so, but once you get a couple of products that people really desire, it can really sing.
Yeah. And we should talk about bundling and supply chain hand in hand. Like Mike, you brought up, and Jason and everybody brought up the shipping dynamics. You probably know this, right? When you use a 3PL, there are 2 or 3 main things you're paying for. One is storage. We're not talking about that. The second one is pick and pack, which is the cost to pick an item. Okay. And then fulfillment, the actual cost to ship the fucking thing. And if you have bundles that work, it costs $1 to put an item in a thing, right? And if you can pre-pack bundles in China or at your factory, and you have True Classic tries to sell people 8 t-shirts, right? It's probably because they have 8 t-shirts in a box, and it's like, it costs $1 to put that in.
That's a SKU. It's not like they have the SKU of a single t-shirt. They probably have an 8 t-shirt SKU, and it's like, we're going to push the SKU.
Yeah, because if you do the math on that, it's like if you come back every single time and buy individuals, okay, that's $8 in pick and pack fees. And then of course there's like, it's cheaper to ship a denser box, right? So if they put 1 t-shirt in it or 8 t-shirts in it, it probably costs the exact same to ship it to you. So yeah. And I think everybody listening should do this. If you have a consumable, you should just offer a year supply, right? Like True Classic did this. They sold 365 t-shirts at once. And I'm sure basically nobody bought it, right? It was a PR move. But if you have supplements or whatever, everyone wants to get on subscription. How about you give me on a yearly subscription? I get to ship you a big ass fucking case, because that's the most economically viable for me as a business. And some people will take you up on that. So that's a good one, Mehtab. I love it.
Full of them.
If you interact with my website, if you have a customer service ticket, if my team takes care of you, you are interacting with Rich Panel. We've been using them for the past 2 months, 3 months. They're an AI-powered customer support tool. We were with one of the legacy players before. They were not embracing AI. They were not best in class, and the cost per ticket was just way, way too high. My team was spending way too many hours clicking around, not taking care of our customers, just dealing with bad UI. Richpanel solves all that. It preemptively takes care of a lot of the tickets, 30% of the tickets using AI. So we have less tickets coming in, even with more orders going out. And the ones that do come in, Richpanel has AI-powered features to make each of our CX agents as impactful and as efficient as possible. There's auto-generated responses, there's automated tagging, and we just started the beta of social media moderation tools. We used to pay for separate tools. We don't have to do that anymore because of Richpanel. The switch to Richpanel was quick, it was seamless. Everyone always hates switching CX tools, that's why they don't do it, but Richpanel made it super easy. It took 3-4 weeks max to be from first conversation to signed up and live on my website. It was amazing. I love them. AI-powered CX is coming to everybody. If you're looking for a partner that can deliver something awesome, customer service, social media moderation, and beyond, go and check them out at richpanel.com. Book a demo.
The other one that's kind of fun while we're here is if you run something with a lot of SKUs, just go and see how they're being packed. And sometimes you'll see some absurd stuff. Like we had a product that arrived as a square, and it was often sold with something that was like fairly long. And when you put those two in a box, you have to use a pretty long box. But if both products were rectangular, you'd be able to get away with a much smaller box, kind of alluding to what Mike was saying earlier. And you could cut shipping down a lot. Like for this particular company, I think they ended up saving like, I want to say like 8 to 10% off their shipping bill each month, which is pretty substantial. But again, that's only something you'll really notice if you go out and look.
This is a derivative on this. I don't know when we'll put this episode out, but we're probably about 6 weeks out from launching another product line. And really it's kind of a separate category. And part of how we got there was we've got this reality that every time we ship a bottle, we're shipping just a bunch of air, like that just can't be collapsed because it's a part of the structure of our item. And I just started thinking, how do you use that productively? And it's like, oh, well, like you can ship things in that. Like it's a delivery mechanism. And then I started to think, well, we're getting kind of the equivalent of like $50 million worth of free shipping if we find something that can go in there. And that was part of how we got really excited about our next product.
Cool.
That we've got this, a massive shipping arbitrage because of exactly what you're talking about.
You guys are killing me, by the way. Like Mike and Sean, between the rings, all the stuff that Mike has got going. Like Mike is just, I feel like Mike has got the gasoline this year. I think Simple Modern is gonna take the crown. You're gonna take the crown, and Sean is getting in terms of like the gas from the rings and all the stuff that you're doing. I mean, Mike just is doing a rebrand. Like I'm getting really jealous. It's time to hunker down.
Well, Jason, I know you're newly rich, so if you want to buy some equity, you can just hit me up on the side at Sean Ecom. I can get you a couple shares. No, I mean, Mike, I am so excited for you to continue to build and expand the brand. I mean, if this is the sentimental part, we've watched Jason just fucking crush the whole world the past 2 years. I don't think it's like appreciated enough, Jason. You come on here and you're like, yeah, we grew 100%. Literally, if you were a public company stock, your performance would you're growing faster than NVIDIA. Like it's insane the past 5 years in that business. So it's amazing what you accomplished, and with a bootstrap small team, Mike, the next 2 years, it's going to be you guys. I'm the tortoise. I'm just going on here every year, 30, 50, 70%.
Well, okay, tortoise. What was your August month over month or year over year? What was that? Was 138%? Well, yeah, no, that's not a tortoise. Sorry. You're crushing it right now, friend.
Yeah, I'm doing okay, but I mean, getting into your categories, Mike's finally getting into edibles. The guy is going to be shipping weed to everybody.
I'm pretty sure that's illegal in Oklahoma, sir.
Yeah, dude, that's where the money is. Illegal drugs.
No, actually, Mehtab, there are more. I think somebody told me this. There are more dispensaries per like square mile in Oklahoma than anywhere in the world. Or anywhere in the United States. It's crazy. Like once they legalized it, or a medical marijuana, it was just insane. Like I don't know. We've got a bunch of potheads in Oklahoma apparently.
Well, there's nothing else to do there. That's why.
Oh, come on. No. So one that we haven't talked about yet is how you handle marketing spend, and like cutting wasteful marketing spend is the single easiest way. Like in my experience. we ran some tests where we got really crazy. Like, what if we turned off ads on Amazon? Just nothing, totally cold turkey. There was a point this would have been 2019, so a while ago, where we had gotten up to, we were spending $1,000 a day, $1,500 a day just on our key terms, just on simple modern key terms on Amazon ads. And we started doing some testing, and it was like, you know what? We're just setting all this money on fire. We're going to get these sales anyway, even if other people, Amazon started to release some data. And we looked at it and we found that, hey, when somebody searches Simple Modern, when somebody searches Stanley, like they're pretty highly determined to buy that brand. It doesn't matter if they see ads for other stuff. Like it's going to be hard
It's just
to
not
knock them
incremental.
off. Yeah,
So, Mike,
exactly.
you don't care if someone goes into Amazon and types in Simple Modern, and the first thing that shows up is a competitive brand? I'm just curious.
Yeah, let me answer your question with a question. Do you think any of our customers are unaware that Stanley exists? Like if somebody if they're showing up to Amazon and they're like, yeah, I'm going to buy a Simple Modern tumbler today. It's not because they don't know that Yeti's there, or that they're like, oh, Stanley, what is that? It's like they know about all these things. So like Stanley might show up with an ad, but they're already aware that Stanley sells a tumbler. When they showed up at Amazon, they kind of indicated what they were intending to do. And Amazon's numbers completely bear this out. Like some of the stuff I've seen is that 98% of people who search your brand end up buying in brand or something like that. It's a very, very high number. And so this is a great example of Amazon, Google, Facebook. They will take your money. They will let you do stupid things. They will, Google is happy to let you advertise your website and that be the sponsored link right above your organic link. Somebody on the marketing operators, they talked about how they did incrementality testing and it was not incremental. But so that's one of the easiest places is like, where are you just paying for Zuckerberg's water sports? Like where are you just
If you ever feel
directly
stupid
funding?
about it and catching non-incremental spend like that, just remember Restoration Hardware. Apparently the CEO/founder guy, he was the one who caught all that non-incremental AdWords search. Their CMO didn't catch it. The people below them didn't catch it. This is when they were a huge company, like over $1 billion in revenue. And he's the one who caught it. It's just insane.
Yeah, so let's tell that story. Basically, they were their ads all got turned off accidentally, and they didn't know that. Is that the story? Like that somehow everything got paused, and then they realized 3 days later, and then they're like, "Oh wait, sales didn't go down at all," or something like that.
I'm not 100% sure. I think it might have been something like that. I just know that it came directly from the CEO/founder, which is absolutely insane to me for a brand that large. And this isn't when they were tiny, right? It was like very recent. I want to say within the last 10 years or 8 years or something like that.
Yeah, I got a couple diatribes coming out of this. Mike, you're totally right. Google, Facebook, Amazon, advertising as a business exists to let you do stupid things. It's like, no, you wanted to spend $1,000 on that keyword today that drove 0 sales. And it's because we are all DR, direct response, measuring dollars to make dollars. We are like 5% of the advertising ecosystem. If you talk to a very giant company, what they care about is getting a promotion, image, brand, people liking them. Like I have somebody who works at a top 10 advertiser on Meta. Like they work for one of the largest companies on earth and directly in charge of their ad spend. And they're like, yeah, what we care about is vibes. Like what we care about is are there any ads that make us look cooler to Gen Z? Stuff that we would never think about, right? Like ads to get people to reshare, like ads to get people to comment. Like there's all these ad units that just do not drive any revenue at all. And that's really what they're building tools and catering towards. Like going to PMAX is just ways to steal more money from people. And we are the only people who care. We are a very small subset who raises our arms and yells, but we're like, they're getting rid of being able to pay with credit card on Google. And like, we care. Fucking large companies are just like, whatever, man.
Google isn't, they're not moving towards being black boxes for any reason other than they don't want you to see what they're doing. Right? Like that's why they're doing this. Like,
and it's the opposite of Meta, which is crazy. It's like Meta will throw coupons even at very small brands to test incrementality, but Google definitely does not do that. So kind of interesting.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Operator's Northbeam ad unit. So 30 seconds, I'm going to tell you all about how if you have any problems with Northbeam, you can directly message Austin, the CEO. He is there. He will set up your ad account. He will make your bet. He'll give you cookies. Really, they have a dedicated team of people, probably 30, 40, 50 reps at this point, who will make sure Northbeam is working correctly and functioning so you can get amazing data out of this ecosystem. They will be more hands-on than any meta rep will ever be, and they're going to help you understand where your ad dollars are best spent, best positioned, and which ads are working. My team works with the Northbeam team literally every day. They're in my Slack. Maybe you don't get the same level of support as an operator, but they will be there to make sure it's working. And if you're not happy at all, just email Austin. He will take care of you. We use Northbeam every day. It's a benchmarking tool. It's super helpful for forecasting, daily pacing, inter-hour pacing. So we can see like if we just launched an ad in 2 hours, if it's working or not. That's what Northbeam does for us. So thank you, Northbeam, for the support. I'm customer probably number one. So thank you so much.
One thing to add regarding Northbeam, because we just went through a contract renewal with them on their specifically on the MMM, and we got a pretty sweetheart deal. And I expect them to come back to us and raise our price, and they kind of deserve it. I was like, let me reach out to the team, and see how it's going, right? Because I'm not in the day to day. I get feedback. And the team was like, they have improved the MMM so much since we started it that they were like, we should definitely pay for this increase. So, and my team hates every agency and most SaaS. The only person that hates SaaS, the only more than my team is Sean, Frank. But yeah, I mean, they came to us, they're like, hey, you guys got the sweetheart deal. We were one of the first MMM clients. And I was very, very pleased when my team was like, it's really working well for us. So that's my little MMM plug. I'm here for all the marketing, overspending, crap. So please, like, keep bringing it, Sean, bring it, because there's so much.
Yeah, here's mine. I tweeted this out. It didn't get nearly as much love as it deserved. Brand marketing is just brag marketing. Okay. Like Jason is sponsoring the All In Dinner. I'm sponsoring the All In whatever. It's just because I like the podcast. You know what the return's going to be? A big fat fucking zero. But we're rich. We get to have fun. Like that's what it comes down to, right? Maybe, maybe Jason Land's investors are a big deal. He has fun with it, right? But that is what I call brag marketing. Mike, you sponsoring the stadium, the people running out, that's brag marketing. That's because it means something to you. And good, it should. It's your fucking business. Do whatever the hell you want, right? But there is a whole category of spend out there that is brand marketing that is just a big fat zero. It is just to make you feel good or feel special. And we should just own that. That's brag marketing. And
so here's an easy kind of like way to think about this. If you are the type of person that needs to engage in a conversation of how can I make my business more profitable over the next 14 days, you should not be doing brand marketing. Brand marketing is beyond that. That's when you're like, I'm thinking over the next 5 years, how do I make the enterprise value of this thing go up, kind of deal. And I do think I've been persuaded that there are some times that it really makes sense and that it can really matter, but it's not if you're trying to figure out, hey, how do I go from $1 million EBITDA to 1.25, this year, and how do I create some liquidity? If you're doing brand marketing at that point,
Sean is doing one of his like very binary statements here that he does sometimes, and I'm gonna call that one out. Is there a little brag marketing? Sure, we have a big deal with the Yes Network, which is the Yankees network. And we're also, on top of that, we just added a small piece with the Yankees themselves. We're the official cookware of the New York Yankees. We can use it in our marketing. It's not DR in any way, but we're always getting texts from people, like people at Yankee Stadium. They see Hexclad as like on the first baseline in right field. Before there were paid ads on Meta. There was all other kinds of marketing. And so it's absolutely not quantifiable. And so some of it is like, let's do this type of let's do this bit of brand marketing because it's fun. And you certainly can't quantify it, but I think your statement is this is a little too binary for me.
Dude, okay, well, you prove the point because you get text messages about it. You're like, damn, this is pretty fucking cool. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's for us. It's fine if it's for us. And it's okay to have that in your life because you guys deserve it or whatever. And here's my proof. Morton Salt sponsors Dodger Stadium. If you're in Dodger Stadium, you see a big banner that says Morton Salt. And that, why the fuck do they do
Right,
that?
but that's exactly my point. Do you think there's some dude at Morton Salt? Maybe there is, but like that's like, oh, I want to just sponsor the Dodgers because it's the Dodgers, or they're there because they want to. They think those impressions have value.
Oh, it's definitely because he wanted free tickets. That's what I think.
Listen, that ad spin was so effective that it got earned media on this podcast. Morton Salt. I've tried other salts. Morton's is the best.
Anyway, yeah, cut. I mean, there's lots of other marketing to cut, but that's my most recent soapbox. Is if anyone ever tells you about an event they have going on that they're gonna sponsor, or if there's anything that like we're sponsoring this person who has like incredible credibility, I'm like, what's their social reach? Is it millions or else like, nah, it's not worth doing. But what else?
Well, this is one thing I think this is actually worth pointing out because I think you're both making good points that just there are types of marketing spend where you're not exclusively trying to drive EBITDA for the business. And that can make sense, right? Like, especially when you have a founder-led business, like we brought up the OU example. Like, is it awesome that when I walk in the stadium that like I'm kind of known as the CEO of Simple Modern and Simple Modern sponsors a bunch of stuff and there's some fame around Simple Modern in that stadium? Like, yeah, that's fantastic. That's kind of a personal benefit. And when I think about it kind of holistically, like that's awesome. So, but if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out how do I make more money tomorrow, then probably not your cup of tea.
Yeah. And here's the last point on this. We know for a fact Elon Musk is going to eat the next 3 meals cooked on Hexclad cookware. And it's like, what's going to come out of that? I'm like, well, fucking 50 billionaires hanging out, eating around Hexclad with a Hexclad chef. I'm like, something good, right? But it's impossible to draw a direct line of revenue on that. And if you need profitability, yeah, do not do any brand marketing. Do not fall for it. Do not fall for TV bias.
The other really, this is really tactical, really micro, but just annoys me. And I need to get it out there. A lot of small brands still run by the founders are really guilty of it. Just send more email. Like if you're sending 1 email a week, no, send 7. It's especially if you're selling to predominantly female audience or an audience that's older, they're not going to unsubscribe. They're not going to care. Just send more email. Send 7 times a week. Just blast it. Even twice a day sometimes. It probably will not hurt you. Probably will not unsubscribe. And you'll see revenue go straight up. And it's free revenue too. Very low cost to blast it. You can even do an easy, cheap holdout test if you want. But I've never seen it not work. It works literally 100% of the time. If it doesn't work, you can send me a message on Twitter complaining, and I'll send you something.
I agree with you on this one. For sure. Like the number, there's always going to be somebody complaining about something that you're doing in marketing, right? There's always going to be that one person that's like, oh, I get too many emails. Who cares about them? There was a time, this is like one of the huge up levels of us in 2022. We actually hired an agency to really do emails. We were like crap at it before then. We would like send an email when there was a sale, and we got really serious about that. And that was one of like 3 or 4 things that really leveled up our business in 2022. So if you're not doing that, right, go hire an agency that just does email. If you need good ones, DM me and take it really seriously and send lots of emails.
Oh yeah. And Mehtab said 1 a day, sometimes 2 a day. Yeah, that's the right type of frequency we're talking about. And I would add an additional point there. Most brands send campaigns when like they have a sale. Always have something on sale to always be able to discount about, right? I think, Jason, you have bundles. I mean, Mike, you have the spooky drops now.
We really formed a kind of a cadence of drops so that we always had an excuse to be talking to people. And that's maybe kind of the application of this point is like, the incrementality of those extra emails goes down if you don't have interesting things to talk about, and you do risk people tuning you out. But if you're intentionally structuring it where you have interesting new things to talk about every time you get in front of people, then their kind of like willingness to take messages from you is really high, higher than you would think.
Yeah, if you just go and open any normal person's phone and you go look at their email, it's so flooded with promotional stuff. And I'm not talking about like the nerds that listen to this podcast, because I know you guys unsubscribe and stuff, but like go grab your mom's phone, open it, go to Gmail, and you'll see it's just like 3,000 promotional messages a day. And like, is that person going to know if you emailed them once a day? No, they're not going to remember.
You do Lululemon emails every single day, and like you're more precious about your brand than Lululemon, like the best people to ever do it. So yeah, send more emails. And Postscript's a sponsor of the pod. Send the appropriate amount of SMS messages using Postscript. They'll use AI to help you figure that out. But unlike email, it gets pretty expensive to send incremental SMSs. So make sure you just send the right amount of those.
Oh, and I have my favorite one that I want to talk about. Ringless voicemail. Nobody does it, and it works extremely well. Everyone that does it can vouch for it. Super cheap. I don't have a favorite vendor. I forget who we use, and I don't think they're actually even that good, but just do them. You'll be really shocked by how well they work. There's some laws to follow, but it's still relatively unregulated. Super fun. Will definitely work. Will totally crush it. Send it in addition to SMS, layer it on top, use it during flash sales and things like that. It'll really crush it.
Yeah, you hear that? If you need a ringless voicemail plug, you hit up Mehtab.
No, I don't know who to use. Don't ping me. Just Google it.
All right, guys.
Thanks again for having me on, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the Operators newsletter. It'll make you more handsome and taller. That's how I grew lately, just a little bit. And if you're looking for a minority equity partner or a buyout, feel free to drop by our website at cartaventures.com, Karta ventures.com, and ping us. We're really flexible with deals. We love looking at weird things, profitable or not profitable. Either way, we're happy to jump in and take a look.
And he loves Fulfill, the #1 sponsor on the podcast.
We do. We use Fulfill.
He likes Northbeam. He likes Postscript, the two other sponsors of this amazing podcast. He listens to Marketing Operators. He subscribes to the Operators YouTube. He's here. We love him. Thank you for coming on. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you.